He would spend hours listening to the wind sweeping over the dunes, then try to hum back its melody. "The desert speaks," he once said in an interview decades later. "You just have to be still enough to hear it." In a culture where music was passed orally and preserved communally, the young boy was already seen as special, not merely gifted, but possessed by something that made his fingers move before his mind could think. Laganna's real awakening came at age 11, when a traveling musician from Mali passed through his village carrying something unlike anything Jamal had seen. A Kora, a 21-string West African harp lute. The musician allowed Laganna to touch it. He didn't just touch it, he memorized it. Within minutes, he had replicated the rhythm on his crude home instrument. The traveler was so impressed, he left the boy his broken Kora out of respect. Jamal fixed it using leather cords, tree sap, and raw ingenuity. From that point forward, the boy and the instrument became inseparable. In his late teens, Jamal journeyed north with a merchant caravan to Algiers. Colonial Algeria, like much of North Africa, was a volatile mix of cultures, tensions, and opportunity. He played in cafes where French soldiers drank bitter coffee and Arab poets argued about revolution. Music was his passport. By 1951, Laganna was already being noticed in underground music circles in Algiers and Tunis. He played not with sheet music, but from memory, from emotion, from the wind in his ears and the sand in his eyes. He spoke little French or Arabic at the time, but no one needed translation. His fingers translated for him. That same year, an ethnomusicologist from the Sorbonne named Jacques Moreau heard him in a back alley cafe. He offered Jamal a chance to come to Paris and record. Jamal declined. He didn't want fame. He wanted freedom. "If you put me in a studio," he said, "you will kill the wind in me." But 3 years later, he relented. Briefly. In 1954, at the urging of Moreau, Jamal recorded 6 tracks in a single uninterrupted session at Pathé Studios in Paris. No second takes, no mixing, just Laganna, his Kora, and a single hanging microphone. The result was Desert Wind, an album that would eventually become a cult classic among world music scholars. It was released in 500 copies and largely ignored, but not by everyone. A young Ali Farka Touré in Mali, and even a teenage R.I. Cooter in California, would later cite Desert Wind as foundational. It was music that didn't care to impress, but couldn't help but haunt. Fame, briefly flirted with, was abandoned. Laganna returned to Niger in 1955, walking most of the way home from Algeria. He carried his Kora wrapped in burlap and a notebook full of compositions no one would read. Back in Agadez, he began teaching, informally, in the traditional way, by playing, by showing. He never opened a school. His classroom was the shade of an acacia tree and the flicker of a campfire. Students came from as far as Timbuktu, Cairo, and Khartoum. For the next 30 years, Laganna lived as a nomad again. He traveled from village to village, often without money, sometimes without food, but always with music. Always. He composed over 300 songs, many of which survive only through oral tradition. His compositions were unlike anything the traditional Sahelian schools had known, melancholy, harmonic, and startlingly modern in their layering. He used silence like a note. He played dissonance where others expected beauty. In his own words, "I am not here to make people dance. I am here to make them remember what they forgot." In 1982, a BBC radio producer researching forgotten African folk traditions stumbled upon Laganna Jamal during a desert festival in Niamey. A short segment aired in the UK that winter under the title "The Man Who Plays the Wind." Interest soared. Musicologists, journalists, and world musicians began flocking to West Africa in search of the elusive master. But Laganna never cared for accolades. He was offered a visa to perform at the Montreux Jazz Festival. He declined. He was invited to teach at Juilliard. He never replied. "If they want to hear me," he told a friend, "let them come where the wind still sings." On October 9th, 1997, Laganna Jamal died in his sleep beneath the same tamarind tree under which he had first fixed that broken Kora as a boy. There were no obituaries in the major Western papers, no state funeral, just a gathering of musicians, some students, and the sound of wind. They say the sand didn't blow that day. In 2001, UNESCO named Jamal a World Heritage Musician, posthumously. His lone studio album, Desert Wind, was reissued in 2003 and became a critical sensation. The Guardian called it a whisper from a forgotten soul, more powerful than a stadium scream. Today, his students teach across West Africa and beyond. In Bamako, in Niamey, in refugee camps and music schools alike, Laganna's name is spoken not with reverence, but with warmth, like an old friend, a trusted guide. There are no statues of Laganna Jamal, but there are melodies still carried by the wind. And if you listen closely enough, you just might hear him.